Hi everybody, this is Congressman Joe Courtney. I'm speaking to you from Columbia, Connecticut, which is in the heart of the 2nd Congressional District at Cloverleigh Farms, which is a really outstanding, exciting new enterprise right here in terms of Eastern Connecticut's long heritage of being, an agriculture sector leader in the state of Connecticut. Cloverleigh is led so ably by Susan Mitchell, who's going to talk in a second here. But again, the real reason I'm here today is to just sort of spotlight the fact that the agenda of a really great coalition of young farmers across America is now, getting actively involved in Washington in terms of, a whole host of issues to really promote more involvement by young Americans in a critical part of our country's society and economy, which is food production. The National Young Farmer Coalition, which has been around for a few years, knows, like just about everybody else in agriculture, that we're really in a farm bill cycle. So it's going to be a very critical moment to really make sure that the right priorities get included in the farm bill that is being debated in Washington. And again, the Young Farmer Coalition was down in DC, Susan with a bunch of her colleagues, talking about those priorities, which and today I'm just here to share with you that one of them, which is about reducing student loan debt for farmers, which is encompassed in a bill. The Young Farmers Success Act was introduced a couple days ago, bipartisan bill. The lead was a Republican from Pennsylvania, G.T. Thompson, who I've known for a number of years, but he's also somebody who is pretty important because he's the chairman of the Agriculture Committee, and hopefully that's going to give us a really strong momentum to get started to really make sure that student loan debt, which again is such a hindrance for young Americans in almost all aspects of their future endeavors, is extended. That the relief program, the public service loan program, is extended to people who are in farming. And again, basically in a nutshell, if you have student loan debt through the federal student loan programs, which is where about 90% of the debt is, and you are current with your loan payments for 10 years, you are then eligible to have the balance of your loans discharged. Again, it's been in the law now for people who are teachers, nurses, cops, people who serve in the military that have student loan debt, and clearly I think a really strong case will be made this farm bill cycle that farmers should be, people who are going into agriculture should be included in that. The second big issue, which I'm going to let Susan talk more about, and is being worked on, but is I think on the verge of getting real movement with legislation, is the deal with the Access to Land Act, which I think again the Young Farmers Coalition has identified as their number one priority. And Susan can talk about it personally in terms of her own experience. Brittany Hall is here today from East Hampton, another part of the 2nd District, to talk about her challenges and experience as well. But this is obviously something where there's bipartisan interest and including it in the farm bill, and really it's just kind of almost a do or die issue in terms of whether or not we really are serious about sort of refreshing the workforce of America's food producers. So again, Susan, thank you for the invitation to come out here again, and maybe you can talk about the coalition's agenda.
Thank you. Yeah, always a pleasure to have you here. The National Young Farmers Coalition was founded in 2010 really to advocate for the needs of young farmers, new and beginning farmers, and first-generation farmers. And through surveys of farmers across the country, have time and time again come out to find that the access to land, affordable and appropriate land, is the number one challenge to folks who are interested in entering agriculture. Also, those who are currently farming and want to grow their business typically leave because they can't get access to affordable and appropriate land. So we right now are advocating for land access in this upcoming farm bill to be able to transfer 1 million acres of land to the next generation of farmers. So as many of us are well aware, the average age of a farmer in the country is 57 plus 8 years, and older farmers above the age of 65 outnumber those under the age of 35 by a ratio of 6 to 1. So we have a very much an aging population we want people to go into farming. We need to be able to produce food and feed ourselves, and there are a lot of just really high challenges and barriers to entering into agriculture. One of it is access to capital, which student loan debt can prevent you from accessing. And the second is access to land, because farming is a land-based enterprise or sea-based enterprise if you're farming in the ocean, and you need a place in order to do it. So there's a lot of work to be done when it comes to how we can go about facilitating a better transfer, essentially, from older to younger generations. But we are really at a pinch point right now. It's a crux, and this is not just in New England, it's not just in Connecticut, it's not just in urban or rural, it's across the country. So this is a nationwide issue, regardless of where you live.
Well said. And again, she has been putting in the time in Washington to come down, as I said, with her colleagues to really create, that external pressure so that this issue, gets recognized and hopefully some movement. So Dominic Rowan is a student at UConn, and maybe you can talk about, both of these measures in terms of your view of, what you would, like to do in terms of getting engaged further and deeper into agriculture.
Yeah, of course. I really appreciate a lot of the points that you made, because it truthfully is a very big concern for a lot of students that are going into agriculture. It's
Can
not.
you tell us what year you're in and where?
Yeah, of course. I'm a junior. I'm a dual degree student, majoring in ecology and evolutionary biology and sustainable plant and soil systems. I'm looking to go into extension work, hopefully. But as I was saying, a lot of these problems that the Farm Bill is touching on are huge barriers to entry for agriculture. And I talk to other students, and they're like, "Oh, why are you going into farming? It's not an easy profession." But what it is it's needed right now. Our farmers throughout the country are right now mostly older, and what's going to happen when they retire? And another thing about that is, what we need right now is a different kind of agriculture. We need to start moving towards a more ecological based system that factors in the changing world that we're in. So what we need right now is young, determined, and educated farmers to help grow our food systems to a level where we can support our growing population, our changing world. So I think these measures are really important to incentivize students to get excited about that and get that fire inside of them to help their community.
Well said again. And again, with the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act last year, the climate change portion of that bill, which again, people are still kind of digesting that in terms of the scope, which I think is going to be a real game changer. But agriculture actually was a big part of that, and really I think it's aligned exactly in the same direction as what you just articulated. So thank you for making the choice that you did in terms of your work at UConn, and hopefully we'll get these measures through to help you with your future endeavors. And Brittany Hall is again another young farmer in the 2nd Congressional District who again made a big step forward personally. Maybe you can talk about that and how it fits in again with the coalition's agenda.
Yeah, sure. So farming isn't something I decided to do in college. I wish I had. I think I would have, I loved my first career, but I really love farming a lot more. And so when I decided to become a farmer, to start farming, it was a significant pay cut. And it was a big deal that I had to talk about with my partner and make sure we were both on the same page about it, because it was something, can we support ourselves? And we were very fortunate that both of our parents helped us with our college tuition. So we were able to make that choice to start farming and learn those skills, because we didn't learn them through education. We had to learn them on a farm. So we did that, and then we're finally able to buy our own land just last year. So we had started farming 5 or 6 years ago, and worked with some amazing farmers, got to know a lot of the awesome Connecticut farmers who are also wonderful and so great about sharing their experiences, not just with finding land, but just farming and getting access to resources that are available to other farmers in the state. but finding land for ourselves was really difficult. We spoke with a lot of older farmers who, in theory, were like, yes, we want to have this continue to be farmland, but then they were offered a lot of money from a contractor. And they would generally go with that route because we couldn't, pay the same amount as somebody who was going to go in and put it in a development. And they're like, I know this has been in my family for a long time, but this is money, and like I get it, but we were able to afford it, so we did eventually find farmland. But it was a very long process with a lot of ups and downs, and a lot of contractors got a lot of the land we were looking at, and it's sad to see such prime farmland be lost to development when it could still be farmed by so many of the young farmers that are out there trying to get access to this farmland. And it's that happening.
So can you talk about your farm?
Yeah,
how
sure.
big is it, and where is it?
Yeah, sure. So I own Boots and Blings Farm with my partner, and so we do vegetables and flowers. We are grown organically. We currently sell through a CSA and go to 2 farmers markets. We are growing right now on about an acre. We can expand to about 4 acres. The land itself is 12, but it's wooded, and we want to leave it that way. And so when we bought the land, there was no infrastructure on it, so we've been putting everything in. So we've got the electrical going in right now, and the well that we are hoping to get equipment through the NRCS for the well.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
Good. So the last census by the Department of Agriculture, again, reflected a lot of the challenges that you just described in terms of just the Hunger Games competition for land that's out there right now. But one sort of, I think, interesting trend that it picked up was that the actual number of farmers, kind of perked up in the state of Connecticut, and the number of women farmers in particular was sort of leading the way there. So, there's no question you're part of that, movement. So thank you.
I mean, it's amazing. I would go to the New Connecticut Farming Alliance events, and I was like, oh my God, there's so many cool women here, which is really inspirational to see that, you think about like what is a farmer, and you think like an older man, which is fine, but that's not what's really reflected back to me in Connecticut as much anymore, which is really amazing. Someone's son was asking his mom one time, and he was like, Mom, can boys be farmers too? Because all of his mom's friends are like female farmers, and he hadn't really seen a lot of these male farmers reflected back to him, and I just thought that was the funniest thing.
That's great. That's awesome. It's a great story. So we're also joined by representative from one of those national organizations that kind of really validates Susan's observation that the issues that the coalition's talking about are not Connecticut-centric at all.
Right.
And Kip, why don't you?
Sure. My name is Kip Kolsinskis, and I'm representing American Farmland Trust, but as you mentioned, is a national organization, and so the priorities, one is they've always been known for their policy work at the federal and state level, and specifically the goals are to protect our best farmland. So by protecting the best farmland with a conservation easement, you're lowering its value. Someone's being compensated for that, and it can be more affordable to farmers. So that's another way to improve land access. The second is keeping farmers on the land, which means a variety of things. So whether it's farm viability and markets, and helping people with financing and business planning, but also of how do we get the next generation of farmers on the land. And as you know, it takes a variety of things from debt relief to financing to business planning. All of those pieces are integral. The other thing is not only do we have an aging farmer population, but also as that greatest generation is passing on, that a lot of land is coming down into families, and people aren't sure what to do with it. Do I sell it to a developer? They may not be aware there are all these people that are looking for access to farm as well. And then of course we have increasing of recent immigrants and black and brown farmers that have even less access, and they're not even aware of the USDA extension kind of systems as well. And so they're interested in growing ethnic crops and indigenous crops for specific markets and keeping those cultures alive, and most interested in land that's either in urban areas or near urban areas as well, since that's largely where they live. And so that's also the land that's most desirable for developers. So that's a challenge for us as well. And American Farmland Trust is really excited about some of the initiatives, the things that you're excited about, because we realize that in the next Farm Bill that those are really important. And then the last piece is promoting and using conservation practices. And again, as Don was talking about, thinking about things that are going to be, more ecologically minded, and things that are going to help us with the challenges of climate change, like we were talking a little bit more about the value of high tunnels in an operation and managing infrastructure, and all of the things we need to do to mitigate and adapt to agriculture in a changing climate, and to diversify not only our farmers, but to diversify agriculture across the whole country, to develop more local and regional food systems. That's part of the strategy for, just like with electricity, part of the strategy for climate adaptation mitigation is to use conservation practices and local and regional food systems to help us be successful and have food access for everyone.
Great. Well, thank you, Kip. So again, as I said at the outset, right now is a pretty important moment in terms of food policy and agriculture policy for the country, with the Farm Bill coming up for its 5-year renewal. If people have questions about this discussion here today, feel free to contact our office, and again, we'll have the contact information, on the video available to people, and we can certainly help refer questions to the Young Farmer Coalition if people want to learn more about that. Great group of folks, and as well as the American Farmland Trust. So thank you all for being here, and thank you for listening.
Sure. Thank you for your leadership as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
thank you.
No.